you enjoying this wonderful presence of God that's here today? Are you enjoying? That's what He desires for us to do. He's not hard to approach. He's not difficult to find. Actually, Jesus said when He was talking to the woman at the well that the day cometh and now is when true worshipers shall worship the Father in spirit and in truth, and the Father seeketh such. The literal translation says He's always searching and looking for those. When I call His name, I don't have to find Him, He finds me. What an honor to be here today. Colossians chapter 3, beginning verse 1. If you then be risen with Christ, seek those things which are above, where Christ sitteth on the right hand of God. Set your affections on things above, not on things on the earth. For you're dead, and your life is hid with Christ in God. When Christ, who is our life, shall appear, then shall you also appear with Him in glory. Mortify therefore your members which are upon the earth, fornication, uncleanness, inordinate affection, evil concupiscence, and covetousness, which is idolatry. Please notice that last verse. Mortify. Let me read it from a different translation. So put to death whatever in your nature belongs to the earth: sexual immorality, impurity, shameful passions, evil desire, and greed, which is idolatry. And for a little while this morning, I want to talk to you about things that must die. Things that must die. Lord bless you. You may be seated. Before I begin today, let me say what an incredible honor it is to be here today. And I don't want to ever take this for granted. The greatest fear I have is that I will not say what the Bible says and that my human nature shows up. So today I want to carefully take you to the Word of God and look at it very carefully, because it has so many incredible things that affect our lives today. The writer of Hebrews says that the Word of God is quick and powerful and sharper than any two-edged sword, piercing to dividing asunder of soul and spirit, joint and marrow, and is a discerner of the thought and intent of the heart. The Word of God is alive and active. It's quick and powerful. That means it's alive and active. It still has the same power today it had the day it was written. It hasn't lost its authority, its ability to touch our life. The purpose of the Word of God is not to make us feel worthless, but to give us a revelation of how valuable we are to God. Our world majors on our defects and our issues and our problems, but God doesn't major on those things. He wants to cover those with His blood, so that once they're covered and our past is behind us, we don't have to live in it. See, yesterday is just the roadmap of how I got here. It does not define me or predict where I'm going or tell me who I am. It's just how I got here. I don't have to live by it. I don't have to be controlled by it. Your world seems to think that that's what's going to happen. You're going to be controlled by yesterday. But God never wants you controlled by yesterday. That's why an old man about to be executed by Nero wrote to a church at Philippi and said, I have not quite apprehended that which I'm apprehended of, but this one thing I do, forgetting those things which are behind, reaching towards those things for that are before me. Paul said, I refuse to live in the past. I'm going to live in the present and in my future. I'm not going to let yesterday define me. The passage of Scripture I have read to you today is incredibly unique. The church at Colossae was not a church of great name or authority. Actually, nobody knew about it. Archaeologists can't even find the city. It disappeared. According to history, within 100 years of the time this letter was written, there was no one living there anymore. And 2 neighboring cities came and plundered it and took all the building material back to their towns and built buildings out of the remains of that old city. So if you've got a dying city, which it was, and a congregation that was very, very small. There's more people in this room than was in the church at Colossae. So to such a small group of people that would appear to be unimportant, why would Paul write the most powerful letter in the New Testament? There's none more powerful than this letter. There's none that has more doctrine in it than this letter. And to a church that would just appear that it doesn't have any ability to help or influence anybody. It's not wealthy. The city has, because whoever built it on the wrong side of the river. When the snows melted in the springtime and the floods came, it deposited an alkali content on the side of the river they lived on, and the surrounding land just died. It couldn't grow anything. Because it couldn't grow anything, and they didn't have our means of fertilization that we have today, they were only left with one resource, and that was to leave, or they'd die. They'd starve. So they moved, and they disappeared. So to such a small group of people, why would Paul write such an incredible letter? First of all, it's to let all of us know that we're all important, no matter the size or the number. That doesn't matter to God. Everybody is important. And because they're important, Paul wanted them to truly understand who they are and what God's desire is for their lives. And I'm convinced today, if we ever truly discovered who we are and what His desire is for our lives would change. I can tell you emphatically today that when I try to act like Jesus at my house, there are no problems. When I don't act like Jesus, there are all kinds of problems. The closer I get to Him and the more I put on Him, the people who live around me enjoy being around me. But the less I have of Him in my life, the people who live around me don't want to be around me. So look what Paul says here in the 3rd chapter. There's so many things that can be addressed from these few chapters. It's such an incredible book, and I want to just share just a few of those to you today, and they're probably going to be a little shocking when I share them with you, because it's going to cause you to realize what's in your world and what we've allowed to affect us. He said, if you have been risen with Christ, if you have been baptized, you buried with Him, risen. If you have put on Christ, then it would be a good idea to change your affections. It would be a good idea to change what you put your interest in. Is your affection on things above, or is it connected to this world. So I remember as a child growing up in the church that everybody that I heard talking as adults were usually talking about the coming of the Lord and what a great time that's going to be and how they are looking forward to his coming. We don't even talk about it anymore. What happened? How did we lose our desire to be with him? See, Paul said, for me to die is gain. To live is Christ. But for me to die, I get to go to a new world. And if you have put on Christ, then set your affections, your desires on things above, not on things of this earth. There are more family problems connected to what you own than any other issue. I have a close friend that right now, because grandma and granddad passed away, now they're all fighting over what they left. And that's usually the struggle in every family in America. Why? Because of greed, because of what we think belongs to us that we didn't work for. You know, the fact is today, ladies and gentlemen, only the things that you work for do you treat with dignity and respect. Gifts that are given to you often wind up in garage sales. The greatest shopping day of the year is the day after Christmas. It's when you take back what you didn't like that you got and get it, and you trade it in on something that you want. See, that's our world. We forget how affected we are by the world that we live in. And then we let the world we live in dictate how we connect with each other. So he said, you got to change what you attach your life to. Can I point out to you today that according to the world, not church, not religion, but according to the world, if you just own a Facebook page, you increase your chance of divorce by 35%. Oh, but it helps all of us connect, and it helps us to connect with our families. What a lie. There's no connection with that. All you're seeing is a picture. If you can't see the eyes of the people you're talking to, you will offend them and hurt them. So conversations that happen without eye contact will cause all kinds of issues in your family. So we've detached ourselves from each other, and now we're connecting through a fantasy. First of all, there's not one thing social about it. Even though it's called social media, there's nothing social about it. So the world keeps giving us this stuff that they lie about, and we just take it and assume it's okay. Could I also point out that Europe, London, England, Oxford University studied America and discovered we won't do it ourselves. You know what they discovered? That 80% of divorces filed in America mention Facebook. You want to doom your marriage? Then get you a private inbox. Get you a mechanism people can send you information that has the ability to wreck your life. And there's an old proverb that says there's no fool like an old fool. And that's a fact. Because I can show you an 80-plus-year-old that great-granddaughter taught how to have a Facebook page that within just a very short period of time got one of those private things. And it simply asked the question, are you, and gave the name from the city, and did you graduate from this high school in this year? And his response was, yes. He was 88 years of age. A few days later, he gets another message that says, well, I'm name your high school sweetheart. They start a conversation. And in less than a week's time, he informs his family that he's not going to spend the rest of his life unhappy. Now, how much more life does an 88-year-old have? If you could put up with it that long, you're going to wreck the rest of your life and your family and everybody around you because you're not happy? Where'd this dumb idea come from that somebody's going to make me happy? That's a lie. There's not a human alive that can make you happy. If you want to be happy, go get in front of your mirror and practice your happy face. Happiness comes from inside, not outside. There's not a human alive that has the power. And then I go to Christian bookstores, of which I haven't been in probably 20 years because I just got irritated by them. I started seeing all these dumb titles show up, and I'm thinking, I want to gag every time I read some of them. His needs, her needs. Really, you got needs? That's the dumbest thing that's ever been stated. There's not a... Look at the person beside you and see if there's a zipper on the back of them. And you can unzip them, and they can crawl out, and you can crawl in. There's not a human alive can meet your needs. Would you grow up and act like an adult and meet your own needs? It's kids that whine and complain about nobody meeting their needs, not adults. See, I've heard too many of our complaints, okay? 40,000 plus of them at this point. And I know what we say and the problems we have in our families and our marriages, and then we're going to blame somebody else for it. You know why Paul wrote this letter to this church? Because they started a doctrine that Paul recognized would destroy the church if he didn't address it. You want to know what the doctrine they started was? You really want to know? It's alive and well today. The doctrine they started was the devil made me do it. Not taking ownership of my life and blaming somebody else for my problems. Here's where it started. And that's why Paul writes this letter to these people. You want to destroy your life? Then blame everybody else. I've been doing this 40 plus years, folks. As of today, nobody has ever showed up at my office and said, Brother Hughes, Mr. Hughes, Dr. Hughes, whatever they want to call me. No one's ever showed up and said, Brother Hughes, you're looking at a problem. Everybody that shows up is going to blame somebody. She did it, he did it, they did it. It's never my fault. I never caused any of this. But I can tell you as a 74-year-old, every problem at my house I caused. When I get honest, it's me. See, we need a devil. Without a good devil, we can't exist. So we create this devil that we can blame for all of our problems. So Paul's writing to this church, and he's saying, you got to change where you're attached. If you're attached to this world, then you're going to be controlled by whoever controls this world. And Satan still controls this world until he's judged. So are you going to be attached this way, or are you going to be attached this way? It's your choice. God won't make you do either one. It's your choice. You want to be attached to God? See, the fact is, this morning, all of us are as spiritual as we want to be. The reason we're not any more spiritual than we are is we don't want to be. There's nothing keeping me from getting closer to God. Nothing. Other than I don't want to. Why don't I want to? Because the closer you get to Him, the more view's exposed. And that's a little bit uncomfortable. So we'd just rather live on the edge and not have us exposed than to get too close to where we really see what's inside of us. If the nature of God is love, and that's what the scripture says, God is love. If God is love, the closer I get to Him, the more I see of what love truly is. And then it reminds me that I've tried to manipulate the people around me instead of loving the people around me. Why? Because our world has taught us that the greatest way to control anybody is through guilt and shame. Give them a guilt trip. Honey, if you really love me, you'd let me go fishing. Honey, if you really love me, you'd buy me a new dress. So we've learned how to use it a long time ago. And we enjoy using it. But God's never, ever used guilt to control anybody. God don't give you a guilt trip. If you're having a guilt trip, it didn't come from Him. It came from this way. It came from the humans in your life, not Him. We become masters at control. So I need to make sure where I'm connected. Then verse 3 says, for you are dead, and your life is hid in God. What a statement. You are what? What's dead? The day you're baptized in His name, your original sinful nature of that you couldn't help it and the devil made you do it, dies. And you become a new creature. And that new creature is you don't sin because something makes you, you sin because you choose to. Do you stop sinning? I don't see a halo in this place, so the odds are incredibly high that the answer is yes. But every time I do it, it's not because somebody made me, it's because I chose to. It's my decision. I can blame it if I want, but you're dead, and notice the rest of that. Your life is what? What do you think that means? Hid. What's he saying? Well, the closest word in our language to that original word is camouflage. The day you become God's kid is the day you disappear from His radar. He can't see you no more. If He can't see you, then why do you keep blaming Him for everything you do? If all of your sin is erased in the water and there's nothing to be judged by, then where does He get your past? How does He drag up yesterday if it's buried? He can't. You're dead and you're hid. He can't see you, but He can hear you. So all of those words you say become prophecies that allow him to define your life. So the words we use against each other in anger and rage that we never say we're sorry for, we never try to correct or ask forgiveness, becomes resources for him to manipulate the world you live in to cause you all kinds of issues. It's not he's putting words in your mouth. He's just listening to what you have to say. And you become a self-fulfilling prophecy that defines your future by the words you keep repeating over time. I'm hid. When Christ shows our life shall appear, then shall we appear with him in glory. Mortify, put to death, therefore your members, which are upon the earth. What an unusual list. There are 5 items. If you start this list and reverse it, I can tell you how you wreck your family by getting involved in an affair. Here's where it starts. See, that first church had as big a problem with flesh and carnality and sexual sin as we have in our world today. It hadn't changed. And so he's warning them, you're blaming everybody else for your lust and for all this stuff that's happening when the fact is that's not how it starts. You want to know how it starts? Here's how you wreck your life. This is what happened. This is what you let in that destroys you. That last one on the list is covetousness, which is what? Idolatry. You know what you won't find in history? You won't find in the Bible? Is that the New Testament church ever started worshiping the gods that were around them. They didn't worship Zeus, Apollo, Aphrodite, Baal Peor. There's never a written history of the New Testament church chasing after pagan gods. The only idol worship that's ever mentioned in the New Testament is right there. Covetousness, which is what? Idolatry. The word covetous has 4 definitions. It literally translates to desire more, to want more, to take more, to receive more. Desire more, want more, take more, receive more. What is our word for that? No, that's its symptom. What's our word for that? We don't even want to use it. It's hard for us to even say it. It's selfishness. Selfishness is idol worship. Who's the God? Let me ask you a question. When you take this little thing and you do this number, what do they call it? A what? You know what research says? If there are more pictures on your phone of you than anybody else, you got a real problem. We thought mirrors were bad. Now you can take one with you every place you go and just... So now, if you're going to go interview for a job, the first place they're going to go looking for you is social media. And what they really want to look for and see if it's there is there any evidence that you might do one of these at a stop sign or driving? Does it show the inside of your car? And if they can find any of them that show that maybe you did it while driving, you're not going to get hired. So now, all this stuff we have is just starting to cause us to be more and more and more and more selfish. 30 years ago, I heard a question on a regular basis. It got really irritating. I've heard it thousands of times. That's not an exaggeration. And the question I kept hearing repeatedly from people was, is this a heaven or hell issue? Will this keep me out of heaven? It usually had to do with divorce. It got real irritating. One day it dawned on me that, wait a minute, that's not the right question. You know what the real question is? You don't have the courage to ask? What's the least I have to do to get by? So when it has to do with marriage, it's what's the least of my time she needs? What's the least of my time? How much affection I need to show her? Give me the minimum. What's the least I have to do to make this thing work? Well, I can tell you after 53 years of marriage that if I had ever had that attitude with that little lady at my house, it wouldn't have lasted 53 years. It wasn't, honey, what's the least amount of my time you need? Or what's the least amount of hugs I need to give you every day? Or what's the least amount of affection I need to show you? See, our world's taught us to look for minimums. And so that's what we do, is we find the minimum amount we have to invest to make things work. Now, I don't hear that question anymore. There's a new one that shows up. And the new one I hear repeatedly is, don't you think I have a right to be happy? We don't care if we go to heaven. We're just looking for happiness. Why? Because this little thing right here has empowered us to deify ourselves and become more important than everybody else. And so selfishness now is the driving force of the world you live in. We live in the most selfish, self-centered society that has ever existed. And as a result, it's affecting us. And we're by the way, we're not become entitled to happiness. Who guaranteed me happiness? Where'd that come from? Where'd the idea come from that I have a right to be happy? Oh, sure you know where it's at. You just forgot. It's called the Declaration of what? What's it say? All men are created under God with certain inalienable rights. Among these are life, liberty, and I wonder what pursue means. Doesn't that kind of indicate you have to chase it? So happiness is running and you got to run it down to find it? A couple of psychiatrists wrote a book back in the 70s, 80s called Happiness is a Choice. It was on New York bestseller for a long time. Happiness never comes from outside. It comes from inside. But the only place and only reason you will ever be truly happy is when you dethrone yourself. Now here's why Pentecostals have such a horrible time with this issue. The day that you become a child of God and you're born of water and spirit and you become his kid as a result of baptism is the day Satan loses total control of your life. Now he can't do anything about you, so you got an empty throne. Now you got to decide who reigns. And the only options that are available are two, either you or him. If you're going to either put him on the throne of your life or you're going to crawl up there on the throne of your life. And when you crawl up on the throne of your life, then life's only about you and you don't care who you hurt or how you hurt them. Because I deserve this. I have these rights. They're not meeting my needs. Covetousness, selfishness. That next word, evil concupiscence, actually two words. What in the world does that mean? Well, the closest thing we could say in our language to describe the word picture painted there is to fantasize. So the day I start becoming selfish is the day I start fantasizing about the best mate, the best wife, the best husband, the best job. And the day I start fantasizing is the day I lose my happiness. Because I start thinking that, you know what? She don't treat me like she used to. And when she don't treat me like she used to, now I've got a right to listen to and pay attention to what others say. Because there's somebody out there that's going to make me happy. He's not, she's not, but there's got to be somebody out there that's going to bring happiness to my life. So there's these fantasies about the best husband, the best wife. Folks, let's just get honest about it. Nobody forced you to marry who you married. No one held a gun to your head and demanded you do it. You married them by choice. And I can promise you, everything you fall in love with will at some point in your life irritate the fire out of you because it's not you, it's your opposite. And so you're going to become irritated by somebody who doesn't act like you or think like you. Now, even if we weren't opposite in character, the fact that we're man and woman is enough to cause the irritation. See, scientists have studied human brains and discovered that as a man goes to sleep, the part of his brain that's working is his problem-solving center. He's trying to figure out, did he get yesterday's problems fixed and answered? Did he get all of his problems answered today? And what's he need to do tomorrow? What needs to be the first thing on? And his brain is getting his life in order for tomorrow. As a lady goes to sleep, the part of her brain that's working is her communication center. She's talking to him. And he's not even listening. Now, I didn't discover that. They did. And that's just the way we operate. That's who we are. So we can fight about that all we want, or we can discover, you know what? That's who she is. So I'll let her be her, and she lets me be me. If I can't look in that little lady's face, I have no clue what fine means. Honey, how are you doing? Fine. If I can see her, I know that means your kids cause me problems all day and I've handled it. Now it's your time. If I'm on the phone and she calls and I say, how you doing? She says, fine. I just keep talking. And it gets quiet on the other end. And I said, oh, I'm doing it again. It's not fine, is it? See, all words don't mean the same thing. And the way my brain operates is if it's fine, it's fine. If it's not, then tell me it's not. Hello? Honey, lightning struck our house. Left brain says, are you sure? And she says, yes, the icebox don't work, the air conditioner don't work, washing machine don't work. Well, that's a good indication it struck it. Turn off the air conditioner, go set the thermostat off, unplug the icebox, unplug the computer, unplug the washing machine. Silence. You've already done that, haven't you? Yes? Well, why in the world did you call me to tell me about it? Well, I just wanted you to know I had a bad day. Our brains don't even work alike. So you have to choose to let somebody in your life that you're not going to create fantasies about somebody else.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Inordinate affection. Another word picture. Best way to translate it is creating ways to fulfill fantasies. So the day fantasy starts showing up is the day your brain starts figuring out, how can I make this come to pass? And then uncleanness. You touch something that makes you unclean. Uncleanness in the Bible simply means you've touched something that made you unclean. Then, sexual sin. The reason he didn't use adultery is because, according to the Jewish world of that day, they had gotten so rigid in their definition of what adultery was. To them, adultery was an adultery only if the woman was a Jewish married woman. If she wasn't Jewish and she wasn't married, it wasn't adultery. So Paul uses the word porneia, which covers all sexual sin. Now, let me show you what happens. Back in the 80s, scientists were studying human brain, trying to figure out how it works. At that point, they didn't have the technology we have today. Through a SPECT scan, today they can study the brain, what areas is operating at a particular time. Those weren't invented yet. So they discovered they could create an electrode 10 times smaller than a human hair. If you've ever had acupuncture, you understand what it is, because those needles are so small they can slip them in your skin and it doesn't make you bleed. And sometimes it's not even painful if they miss a nerve on the way they insert it. So they learned to create this electrode that they covered with a plastic and only left the tip exposed. And they could slide it into the brain of an animal and send a very small electrical current and stimulate the brain and see what happened. So they're studying the limbic system, which is the bottom part of the brain. Brain stem, first layer of tissue above it. In it, they discovered, is the center of fear, anger, food, water, need for food, need for water, also your sexual drive. It's all located in the brainstem. All mammals have it. By accident, they got the electrode in the wrong place. When they sent the signal this time, the animal didn't appear to be afraid, angry, thirsty, hungry. The animal just laid down at the bottom of the cage. And it appeared to have the same characteristics of those they had studied that were addicted to drugs. They just laid there. They could put a predatory animal close to them, they wouldn't even move. They'd just look at them. They weren't high. So they x-rayed the brain, realized they had missed their target by just a small amount. And this area was producing a total opposite effect. So they relocated the electrodes in the other 58 animals and sent little messages. And all of them did the same thing. Well, they had just discovered the pleasure center of our brain. It's a little area about the size of walnut between your ears and behind your eyes called the nucleus accumbens. Whenever you experience any form of pleasure, that's the part of your brain that takes over and creates a flood of a neurotransmitter called dopamine that spreads out throughout your entire brain that causes you to feel the addiction process or the high or the euphoria that's produced by drugs or alcohol. They wanted to find out how powerful it was. So they taught the animal how to press a button to get food, how to press a second button to get water, and a third button to stimulate pleasure. All 59 animals died of starvation. They wouldn't get their paw off the pleasure button. When the pleasure wore off, they'd punch that button again and again and again and again. In humans, they discovered that the pleasure center is not connected to your conscience. Your conscience is in your frontal lobe. So, whenever you experience any form of pleasure, no matter if it's a Hershey's chocolate kiss, and it gives you that pleasure, or tea that's got a lot of sugar in it, whatever stimulates pleasure, instantly that nucleus accumbens sends a message to your conscience. And the message tells your conscience what you're doing. So the conscience now starts trying to analyze this behavior to determine, is it harmful? Is it helpful? Is it dangerous? And it starts going through all of these systems to make sure you're not harming yourself. So if it perceives there's a danger to you, it sends a message back, stop, don't, danger. Your brain has an ability called plasticity. It can change. It has an ability to unplug nerves. So when you violate your conscience, the nerve that brings that message to the frontal lobe of your brain literally disconnects from the dendrite. So now there's no longer a connection. So now that message can't get through. There are thousands of those pathways. Over a period of time, you can disconnect every one of them. 9 months, 12 months, you literally can unwire every pathway. So now you don't have a conscience, and by definition, you are a sociopath. Sociopath simply translates a person without a conscience. You don't mind hurting people. You don't mind seeing people get hurt. You might even laugh at people getting hurt. If you don't correct that behavior, it'll turn into you becoming a psychopath. Then you enjoy hurting people, and you get pleasure out of seeing other people hurt. That's the problem with revenge. By the time when you might enjoy seeing other people get hurt for what they did to you, you might be very close to being a sociopath or a psychopath. Let me give you a little scenario. You and your wife have a heated discussion at breakfast. You go get in your car and you drive to work. You walk into work and you walk by an office and you hear a voice say, "My, you look nice today." Instantly, your ego just got stroked. Now your brain starts comparing the two. Well, that little lady at the house, she didn't treat me like this morning. Maybe I'm not as bad as she said I was. Conscience says, stop. Don't. Danger. No. And you argue. Well, what's wrong with it? She just said I look nice. See, it made you feel good because a flood of dopamine flooded your brain, and you felt good as a result of a word of confirmation. So, now you've unplugged the wire. That nerve's disconnected. As time goes on, that becomes a common place to go by, just to hear, "My, you look nice today." Now your brain has not only fantasized, but it's starting to create these ways of fulfilling what you thought. So when y'all have a really heated discussion, see, the fact is, because she triggered this response, it makes it less of a possibility for you to admit you were wrong and ask forgiveness and fix the problem at home. You got another outlet. So, every time there's a disagreement, you find a way to go by that office. And then friendship starts developing. Y'all go out to eat at lunch as a group, and you find the chair across from this person. And then it's not a chair across, it's a chair beside. And over time, conversation goes from two distant people to two connected people. And you put your hands on them when you talk to them. At some point, there's a body hug involved. And I give you a challenge. Go find any college textbook on introduction to psychology and find the chapter on sexuality. And they'll show you a graph of how you start from a casual relationship and wind up in a sexual relationship. By the time you get to a full body hug, you are 2 steps from sex itself. So you start touching things that's going to make you unclean. And you, by the time you get there, your brain can't say nothing. There's no stop, don't. There's just, wow, this feels good. And then the act takes place. Now your brain will scream at you. And when it starts screaming at you, you've messed up really bad. Most of the time, 80% of the time, you'll go home and confess because you can't stand to live with your conscience. If you only get caught by mistake, you'll never take ownership, and you'll get so frustrated at them, you'll just leave to save face. That's 20% of the time. See, sex don't just happen. There's a process. Affairs don't just happen. If you get involved with someone in a matter of hours, then you're a sex addict. That's what the world says. That's what the medical field says. It takes 9 to 12 months to start this thing to cause you to get to a point you're going to violate your marriage, your home, all your relationship, your family. It don't just happen. If it takes longer to develop, you're going to get emotionally attached to them, and y'all going to run off. You'll abandon your home, your mate, your children, and you'll go start over somewhere else, which will last maybe 5 years max, because you started it on deception, and neither one of you can get it out of your mind that in your subconscious it's recorded that you started this by deception. So you're going to become suspicious of each other, and over time, that one's going to end no matter what you do. So we don't just get to a point. See, it's amazing what's in the book. I got to be real careful about selfishness. This thing can cause me all kinds of problems. All kinds. Matter of fact, scientists have discovered sliding your finger across that screen releases dopamine. It triggers your happy center, and and you can become addicted to it. So you post something on Facebook before you go to bed, and the first thing you got to do in the morning when you get up is to make sure you want to see how many people like what you had to say, and if someone don't like what you had to say, oh, your life's wrecked. It's called an addiction. So we've got some real problems today that we're ignoring and acting like don't exist, but they're causing us all kinds of chaos. Now, I have some good news for you today. You can get your conscience back. You know how you get your conscience back? It's real simple. Quit. Don't do it again. If you can go 9 months without ever having the behavior show up again, your conscience will reconnect, your brain will reconnect all those nerves it disconnected. So you can get it back, but you got to choose to. And you got to make a decision. That is my family important enough? Is my wife important enough? Is my husband important enough that I make a decision that, okay, I want to make it work? Then I have to make that decision and start living the decision. It's not going to just happen. I have to choose. God didn't cause it. I did. So there are some things that must die. The first one, if I can get selfishness conquered, none of the rest of those will show up. If I only try to attack each of those individually, I'll never change. It has to start with, you know what, I'm not the most important person at this house. See, when you understand that your life has a ripple effect, if I mess up, it don't just mess up my life. It's going to destroy my wife. Then I got a daughter and son that's going to be horribly injured by my behavior. I have a son-in-law and daughter-in-law that'll be horribly affected. I have 5 granddaughters. Their life will be wrecked by my behavior. I have 4 grandsons. their lives will be horribly affected. I have two brothers. One's passed away. Two brothers still alive and a sister. Their life's going to be affected. I have 80-something nieces and nephews. Their lives are going to be affected. It don't just affect me. But that world you live in is going to convince you that you're the most important person. And if they don't like it, it's not your fault, it's theirs. And so this world we live in keeps enforcing this idea that selfishness is perfectly okay and I don't have to do anything to change. All I've got to do is just smile and click. Smile and click. Smile and click. Now there's gentlemen in the world that's studying all this stuff. One of them, the name of Simon Sinek, that has publicly stated that this epidemic is so bad in America that in major corporations of America, they can't even have board meetings without taking up everybody's phones because people can't pay attention. And their phones go off and they're going to pick it up, see what's happened to it. So they just make them put them in a box on the way in so that inside that room there's none of this stuff that can. Please stand. Gracious Father, thank you for your word that is still alive and active. It has the power to affect our hearts and lives. Lord, I pray today that you would step in the pulpit that I can't. You put a conscience in every human so you'd have the access to speak to us. So, Lord, I pray today that you'd step in to the secret places where people have hidden from everybody but you. And that you would gently remind us today that there's a better way to live life that won't destroy anybody else or anyone else's life, but it'll make all their lives better. Lord, would you speak to us today? Would you touch our hearts today, Jesus? We can't turn you off. We can try, but we can't. Speak. Speak so that we hear your word today. Lord, if walls have started being built in relationships today, I pray that somebody will make a decision today to stop building the wall and then start dismantling the wall that got built so that relationship can continue. I pray that people would get honest and look at how valuable the things are they have in their own life. They'd see how valuable their wife or their husband is or their children is. And the value of them would cause them to make decisions to protect them, not wreck their lives. Bless every home today. I know Satan's desire is to destroy every family unit here today because he'd get no greater thrill than to see every home broken. He knows if he can break a home, he's destroyed not just the home, but the community, the state, the nation. It's all affected by the brokenness of a home. So, Lord, I pray today that you'd station angels around every home. Don't let that enemy get close enough to sow tares among wheat. Help us today to take ownership. In Jesus' name. He's here. If he's speaking to you, won't you take a few moments to have a conversation with him? Let him talk to you a moment. Would you? Would you respond? That's it. Don't be afraid.